Hello, everyone. Let me turn my video on. Got stuck over here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to tell you a little bit more about the Pender and K-12 Stride partnership we have here. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over and I think we have Dr. Aiken here to talk to us, and also Mrs. Winstead.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am Dr. Charles Aiken. I am the Chief Academic Officer for Pender County Schools. And I'd like to introduce who just popped on the screen, Miss Asia Winstead. She actually has two roles for us now. She is our Pender Innovative Learning Academy principal, while also still being our lead for alternative learning. She's a coordinator and serves as works with our virtual learning, works with our STAR program, and works with our day treatment programs. And she will be working with me to help coordinate our intro into elementary virtual learning. Want to welcome and thank our Stride K-12 partners. I think Ms. Randolph will introduce herself in a second, along with Mr. Craig Hill. I'll let them kind of talk, but we have a pretty simple agenda for tonight. We want to ask Stride K-12 to kind of talk about their platform, make sure any of our parents who might be interested in this option have a really good understanding of how the platform works, what the relationship and roles are between the teachers, the students, and us. And then Ms. Winstead and I will come toward the end with an overview of some of the frequently asked questions that we have received since last Thursday. And then, of course, we'll provide some time for Q&A for all of us to try to help make sure we answer your questions, make sure you feel comfortable kind of about any next steps or decisions that I know that our parents are faced with. So, Ms. Randolph, I guess at this point, we'll back out, kind of let you guys take the lead, and then we'll come in on the other side.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Kristen Randolph. I'm here with K-12 Stride, along with I have Charlie Craig Hill helping me. He is going to be here helping answering some questions as we go through. So I'm just going to kind of introduce you to Stride K-12, who we are, what we do, and then also want to make sure that you are putting your questions in the question answer area. I will probably answer quite a few of them going through the session, but if I were to miss something, I'll come back at the end and we'll go through them, and we'll kind of both teams work on answering your questions. So thank you so much for coming today. Happy to have you here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to give you just a general program overview to get started here. We are the leader in online education. We started back in 2000 as a virtual school, which I think it's important to note that we didn't start out as a textbook company trying to become virtual. We actually were virtual and started out our company that way. We have curriculum specialists who work on our curriculum every year, updating different aspects and different courses. They also work with our teachers to see if there's anything they're seeing and get feedback from parents as well. We are aligned to state standards. We have an engaging and interactive experience that I'll show you here in a minute. We are a one-stop shop, meaning you have just one platform you are going to go to. You don't have to remember a whole bunch of usernames and passwords, which makes it quite easy, and a bunch of different websites. It's all one site. And then we do have K-12 Stride-based, high qualified, state certified teachers that are going to be there helping you. So a little bit about K-5, some fast facts, you would say. We are mastery-based, which means your student can progress at a level or at a pace that is right for your student. And your teacher will help you set that pace and work with you and your student to make sure that they are completing things and that they'll finish at the end of the year. But as you know, sometimes lessons for some students may take a little longer, and other lessons they may kind of speed through those. So it really depends upon your student and your student's pacing, and your teacher will help you with that. It is important that you have a parent or caring adult at home working with your elementary school student. We call this parent or caregiver, we call them a learning coach, and they are there working with your student throughout the day. We do have hands-on learning, so materials that will be there as well as online lessons that your student will be working in. You will have English, history, math, science, art, music, and PE. There are interactive components, which I talked about earlier, where your student can manipulate things online, but then also that hands-on materials later in the session as well. Our assessments do feature technology enhancements, and you'll see the different types of things I'm talking about as we go through the demo. It is 100% flash free. And within our lessons, we do have that text-to-speech feature for our students, as well as translation support, which is really good. So this is a big question everybody's asking this year. So we're kind of looking at what we did last year and what you're going to do this year. So last year, your schedule was similar to a normal school day. Students logged into the webinars every day with the teacher every day, every class. Attendance was based on joining that webinar. And then it was designed for just that temporary solution and working with, the COVID pandemic. This year, with Stride K-12 and Pender, what you'll do is you'll have a flexible schedule. And this is really nice for families. You don't have to log in for every single lesson. In fact, our teachers aren't there to teach every single lesson. They're there to help support you. There will be some lessons taught, and I'll go into that later. The online course provides lessons and also classwork, as well as a lesson guide for learning coaches. Students log in to those live sessions with their teacher that they can choose to go to. Some will be mandatory, some will be optional. And then attendance is based on completion of course and work within the calendar year. And then finally, this is a long-term program solution. So this is a really important part here, because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the roles and responsibilities. So if you're wondering, what is all this? What am I required to do? What is my student going to do? This is that part. This page is really important because it shows the partnership between the student, the learning coach, and the teachers. And it's important that you maintain this partnership just as you would in the brick and mortar classroom. But it's even more so important in this setting because your teachers will be giving you feedback through email, in sessions, phone calls. So it's important that you have that communication with your teacher. Okay, the role of a student. So our student is our learner. It is important that your student follows their lesson plan and completes their lessons that day. It's about 4 to 6 hours your student will be putting in with a learning coach help going through their plan. We have class connect sessions, which are group connect sessions with your teacher, where your student will get in with other students and interact with students and your teacher, following maybe completing a lesson or maybe just going over something that they're seeing students struggling in. There are student connect sessions. Those are our one-on-one sessions with the teacher that your students will be invited to. It does vary by grade level. And then they're going to make sure that they access their course content daily through their student account. So as you work with us, there's a platform. Remember I said there's one web page you'll go to, and you'll sign in as a learning coach, and your student will sign in as a student. So those are the 2 passwords, usernames that you guys will have to remember. But it's important that your student is going through their student account, not the learning coach account. Make sure your student is completing their work and turning in any work samples that a teacher may request. And then also your student is going to need to participate and communicate. So in those class connect sessions and those student connect sessions, the group and one-on-one sessions, it's important that your student is participating and showing the teacher what they know. This is where your teacher is checking for mastery of the lessons and program. Also, for those older kids, probably not as much the kindergarten and first graders, but for those older kids, they will need to read and respond to email daily from their teacher. It's the fastest way for their teacher to get them information. Okay, so the role of a learning coach. Again, that learning coach is that caring adult, maybe a parent, working at home with your student through the lessons. Again, you're going to hear me say this over and over again: communicate, communicate, communicate. Make sure you're monitoring and responding to emails or communication from your teacher. Your teacher is your #1 point of contact. They are there for any questions you have. I tell families that they are your cheerleader. So if you're having a tough day, which happens, Let your teacher know. If something is going great and the light bulb finally came on and you're like, oh, we finally got this, let your teacher know. But also go to them with any questions that you have. It's important that you organize materials and help students prepare the night before for materials. I always tell parents, think of it like the classroom teacher. So the night before, or maybe early the morning the next day, they get all the materials organized and ready to go. They're pulling workbook pages out and have everything set so that the next day it runs really smoothly. It's important that you monitor progress. We have a great page that I'll show you that shows you how your student's doing so you can see how they're doing, but it's also important you're checking for understanding within those lessons as your student works through them. Support and encourage learning with your student. Again, I mentioned the tracking progress, easy page to see, I'll show you, checking their grades and make sure your student is meeting their goals. Provide schedule support. So there are definitely, you'll want some sort of schedule. Like we said, this is flexible, so your schedule can be changed. But students like rituals and routines. They like to know what's coming next. So as you're getting ready, think about schedules. Think about when you want to get up in the morning and start school. What course do you want to start first? I usually tell families, start the course that the student doesn't like so much, or maybe it's the one they struggle in. So that way you get it over first thing in the morning while everyone's fresh. But helping your student keep up and maintain that schedule, making sure they're completing their daily lessons and attending any student or class connect sessions that your teacher has. You're going to help them with course navigation. And I always like to mention here in the beginning, it's like a new job, right? So any new job you go to, you're coming in, you're figuring out where things are, you're figuring out the layout, who's who, where are things, where's this and that. And that's the same here. So in the beginning, it will take a little bit longer for you to navigate and figure out where things are. But once you get into that routine, you'll see your day going by a little quicker. But it is important to help your student with that course navigation because it's new for them too. Provide that lesson guide support with your student as they go through some lessons, enter and record daily attendance, and support students working, whether it's independently and getting them comfortable working a little bit independently, maybe on a worksheet page that they have for class session, but also help them get those offline materials ready. And then finally, ensure assessment participation. So if there's any district or state benchmark testing, make sure your student is getting there and your teacher or your district, your school will let you know ahead of time when and where that is so you guys can plan in advance. Oops, going too quickly here. I skipped a slide. Sorry about that. There we go. Teachers, we missed teachers, which is an important part. So what is the role of a teacher? They serve as your partner in education. They are curriculum specialists. They are content experts. They're there to help you. Be your first point of contact. I mentioned that. So make sure you're reaching out to them with any questions you have or your student has. They're there to manage the online classroom. So again, the course setup, guidelines, making sure everything's ready for your student, making sure that any course pacing is adhered to and your student is progressing through the course so that by the end of the year, they will finish the course on time. Provide assessment and instructional support. They're going to check those mastery of skills. You heard me say the student connect sessions, those one-on-one sessions, they're going to get in there and check to make sure your student is mastering the lessons, and they may give assessments in those sessions with you. They're going to offer that flexibility and support, meet those individual needs of your students, but they're also going to monitor and act on that data that they're looking at in the online school as to how your student's doing and what they can do to help and support them. They're going to provide feedback on graded assignments as well as how they're doing, but they'll let you know this through email, through phone call, through those student connect sessions. They're going to communicate regularly, again, email, phone calls, but also those class connect and student connect sessions. They're there for compliancy reporting. So any issues with attendance or truancy or work, they will bubble that up to your administration. And then finally, they're going to communicate. They're going to send that course introduction email. They're going to respond to emails from you within 24 hours. They're going to help engage and motivate your students. They're going to give you resources such as the Engage website, which I'll talk about in a little bit, as well as national live sessions that you have access to. Okay, interacting with instructors. So you do have that dedicated teacher. Again, you're going to hear me say this over and over again: phone, email, connect sessions. Make sure you're reaching out for help. Then we also have the live real-time supports, which are those national sessions. They are national sessions that your student is able to join if you or they would like to, where teachers go over lessons and review things with students that maybe they're seeing they're struggling in. And this is at a national level. Then we have the academic chat. This is live, so you can call 24/7. You can call, you can email, or sorry, you can call, create a case, and also chat with our academic instructors. May not be your teacher, but it's an academic instructor, so that maybe during the day you had an appointment you had to go to and you didn't get all your work done, but you're going to work tonight at 7 o'clock and finish that work. But if you get stuck on something, your teacher's already off, you can call this academic support line and get help with you and for you and your student. Okay, so those connect sessions, those live synchronous sessions with an instructor, we actually have a picture on the screen here that shows you how easy it is to get to those. You just click on that Class Connect link there and it takes you directly to your Class Connect session. They'll have instruction with lesson review. There's summer mediation sometimes it'll be question answer sessions or discussing your work. There is time to troubleshoot, relationship building, and also checking in with you and your student. Okay, so some tips for getting started. As you get started, you want to become familiar with the district handbook and expectations for the online program. You also want to check out the role of a learning coach, which I'm going to pull up and put in the chat here for you. This is going to give you just some more information on the role of a learning coach. So after the session, if you're still wanting more information, I put it in the chat there. You can go to that link. So go ahead and click on it so you have it. You could go to that link and learn more about the role of a learning coach. So informational materials. I did mention that, it's going to be about 4 to 6 hours a day for you and your student to work through lessons. Again, that depends on your student's grade level, as well as your student and what they need. Also, some courses may require those household materials. A lot of questions I get from families is, what should I get? What do I need to get? Well, you're going to get materials from us and they're going to be sent. However, it's a good idea to think about things like markers, pencils, scratch paper, things like that your student would use in the regular brick and mortar classroom, to go ahead and grab those because you'll probably need those going through the lessons. Materials are shipped when student is enrolled. So if your materials by chance don't get there the first day of school, I don't want you to fret. I will show you where you can check to see the shipping of materials and when and where that will come in, as well as there are PDFs in the online school that you can go to and actually look at and see what you're doing, pull it up, your student can type on the screen and work through the lessons that way as well. So if materials aren't there the first day, please don't fret. They can arrive in one or many boxes. It really depends on the grade level and the course. And then we always suggest to keep those boxes. So fold them up, tuck them behind a dresser somewhere for the school year, because at the end of the year, we do ask you to ship some of those materials back. Question we always get is, oh my gosh, what do we need to ship back? We want to be ready. Think about like workbooks, consumables, things your student's going to write in. We don't need those back. You can keep those. But sometimes there's manipulatives, blocks that we're gonna ask you to send back. That list will be in the materials when they're shipped to you. And then at the end of the year, we have a return shipping label that's emailed to you. You print it out. It'll tell you what to ship back again in case you don't have that sheet because it's been a whole year. And you can ship back the materials to us. I do like to point out it's important to be organized. Organization is key here, organization and preparing. All materials should be organized and accessible, but it's also important to have something to put your work in. So whether it's a box or a binder, whether you do it per subject, it's completely up to you, but there will be some loose papers that you'll want to kind of keep track of. So that's important. I do also mention, and I know most everybody has done virtual school now, but it's important to find that quiet place to work. So if you have a spot that worked great last year, great, go with it. If you're thinking about switching it up, now's the time. So think about somewhere that your student can think quietly, maybe somewhere away from a window that they're not going to be distracted, away from where your toddler is playing, so they won't be distracted there. So just some things to think about. And, think outside the box. This part I think is important too. When I talk to our elementary school students, especially, I think it's important to remember that in the classroom, they're moving around all day, right? They start at their desk in the morning, they maybe do some morning work, then they're going to go to the carpet and do some carpet time, and they're going to scoot somewhere else and go to center time. This is okay to do. Please don't keep your student at their desk all day long. You both will go crazy. So maybe you want to start your math at the dining room table, and then take your literature book and go sit on the couch. And then for your elective, go outside and do your elective, or maybe for a science project or something. And just make sure you're kind of moving around, getting up and stretching too. And as you also work on your schedule, plan on those times where you're going to take a break, 5 minutes in between a lesson. Just 5 minutes to get up, stretch, do jumping jacks, have a dance party, go throw the ball for the dog, whatever it is, something to move around. If you get into a lesson and you're just in the lesson and you guys are just butting heads, or it's just not going as smoothly as you thought it would, stop, take a break. It's okay to take a break during a lesson. Take a break, take a breather, do something for 5 minutes, fun, get your heads out of school, come back and start refreshed. And that's okay to do. So here are just some examples of online school where you could school. So there's the really creative, like they turned the crib into a desk, which is really cool, but oh my gosh, I look at it and I go, that's a lot of work. And then there's like down below, you can see the desk with the printer and the binders. So everything's organized there. Great. And you can see the other ones who have bins to put things in. So just think about having some system of organization. I know we did it really simple last year because we just didn't have time to make anything really creative and cool. So mine would be at the bottom. I have the kitchen table that we had set out. I had one kiddo at one end, one kiddo at the other end, so they couldn't touch each other across the table and bug each other. And then I had a parent recommend to me that they also were doing the kitchen table, and they put all of their supplies in a kitchen cabinet. So at the end of the day, they'd clear off the kitchen table, put it in the cabinet, they're done for the day, and they could have the table cleared off ready for dinner. So it's really, there's no right or wrong. It's really whatever works for you and your family. Okay, so I'm going to do a walkthrough with you. I know everybody likes to see what it looks like. And I did see a question in the chat. Will this be able to download this PowerPoint? We are actually recording it. So you can have the recording. We'll share it with your school, and they can share it with you. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up my demo account here. As I mentioned earlier, there is a Learning Coach login and there's a student login. All of it is on the same page. So as you can see here, this is the page you would log in at. You would just use your credentials or your student's credentials. They have different views. So we're going to start with the parent or Learning Coach account. And as I come in here, who wants me to change my time zone? This is a demo account, so I'm going to leave it as is. As I come in here, it's loading what is going to be going on today. And if I have multiple students, I can come in here and I can click on my student's name. Your student's name would be here. If you have just one student, it would come up very first thing. As it's loading, you can see there are Class Connect sessions over here. So I know right away my student has an office hour. It says it's optional. I have a morning check-in that is required. So I need to make sure my student's going to these and I have them on our schedule. What worked for me really well and my students, and again, you do it however works for you, but I like to throw in these little tips that I've learned along the way. What worked for me and my kids is we would get started on our lessons and we would just get so engrossed in working in these lessons, we would end up forgetting one of our sessions. So what we started doing is setting an alarm on my phone, which you could use the stovetop or microwave alarm, however you want to do it. But we would set an alarm on my phone for 5 minutes before the session. That way we knew when the alarm went off, we need to kind of close up the lesson we're working on, save it for later, jump into the session with my teacher. So again, just an example. Sorry, I've had a lot of talking today, so my voice is kind of starting to go. Okay, this is the page I would come in on. I'm actually going to look at a first grade student, but this looks the same for any grade level. As I come in here, if this is what comes up, I can see what is going on today. So you could call this, as a learning coach, you could call this your plan page, right? This is what you're planning for today. I can see all my courses here. I can see my students' assignments. What do they need to do, when they're due today, and their progress. So if I hover here, it says it's not complete. It's an open circle. But you see this check mark down here, it says the activity is complete. So my student has completed this lesson for today, and I'm good to go. I can also look at my daily, I'm in my daily schedule, but I can also look at my weekly schedule, and it would show me the view for the week. But I have another view that I like a little bit better for that weekly. I'll show you here in a minute. So this is my main page that I come in on. I also have my courses tab up here at the top. This is that snapshot I was talking about, where you can see how your student's doing overall right away. So over here, I can see my courses. I can see my student's grade. Again, this is a demo account, but my grade would be here. I can see my students' progress over here, how far they are in that curriculum. I can see if there's any overdue assignments, the last time my student logged into their student account, and I can email my teacher if I'd like to from here. Speaking of email, if I see a number up here at the top, I'll notice that that means I have some emails waiting for me that I need to go check out. Any of these hyperlinks on here will take you somewhere else. You'll see lots of hyperlinks, and they'll just take you further and deeper into that area. So for example, if I were to click on courses, it's going to take me to this course and show me all the units and lessons of study. If I were to click on progress, it's going to show me how much I've progressed, again, 3% here, through the curriculum, how much I have to go. And sometimes it gets kind of like if you don't finish something, it'll be partially completed, and it'll show you that as well. For our younger students, we do have a reading fluency tab. What our curriculum does is we have benchmark testing, the beginning, middle, and end of the year, and it'll test your students' reading fluency. So down here at the bottom, you can see it tells me my targeted level, it tells me my instructional reading level, my comprehension, my accuracy, the rate, my expression, but I can also listen to how my student read. So maybe I wasn't sitting right there. Maybe I let them read and do this part on their own, and I was folding laundry. So I'm going to come back and listen to it and go, oh, they really did. Look, it says they're above grade level. They really did do good. Listen to that. Another reason I think this is very helpful, I mean, obviously knowing where your student is with reading is wonderful. It's great. But I like to tell parents to use this instructional reading level to go into our Big Universe library, which is our online library. It has over 20,000 books that your students can choose from. But by using and searching for their reading level, you're ensuring, or they're ensuring, that they're choosing books that are not too easy and they're just going to fly through them, and they're not too hard where they're going to sit there and struggle and not want to read the book. So this is a great tool for that. I also have this More drop down. From here, I can go look at my Learning Coach account. I can share a file with my teacher. Maybe I want to show them something that we were working on that we just weren't getting, and can you take a look at it? I also have that Big Universe library. And as a learning coach, this is my link to get there. Students also have this, and I'll show you this in a little bit. While we're in here, we talked about materials, and I said you could track your materials. I'm going to show you where to track your materials. Up here on the right-hand corner, it would say your name. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go to My Info. So from My Info, it's going to show me all of my students if you have more than one with us. And I'm going to click on my student's name, and it's going to bring up this page. So I can see information on my students' accounts, the courses and classrooms, but what I'm looking for right now is that orders area. And if I go in here, I can see my order status, when it was ordered, order status is confirmed. I can click on this link and it'll track my shipment. So it'll help you kind of know when your materials are coming, which will help you kind of in planning as well. Again, I mentioned you don't have to have your materials the first day, and I'll show you where to get in and see those lessons as well as the PDFs. I'm going to go back to my online school. I also have this tab over here on the left-hand side, my schedule. Maybe my teacher scheduled something for me to go to and talk with my teacher on. There's also this attendance tab. Right now, demo account hasn't been very good. They have 342 days of missing attendance, but this is where you'd see if you forgot to log attendance. Attendance is logged at the end of a lesson. Your student will tell you, okay, since you're working with them, that it's time to complete attendance. You put in your learning coach username and password, and then you mark the attendance for today and you mark that lesson complete. But if by chance your student clicks through and didn't give you a chance to do that, you can come in here and mark your attendance for the day. And then we have the announcements. These are any announcements that your teacher has for you or your students that you can come in and see. Maybe it's a school announcement, maybe it's an announcement from your teacher, but it's a very quick way to kind of see what's going on. I'm going to go back up to my students. Again, this is the page that we came in on. I'm going to stick with first grader here.
Kristen, can you just pause a second and
show?
I see right there, you're looking at the home screen and you have like the Connect sessions up right there to the right.
Yes,
there have been
a
couple questions about just how often can the student and the parent expect to meet with their teacher synchronously? Maybe younger kiddos, second grade versus an older student, fifth grade. Can you talk about that a little bit more and how it's different than a school day structure where math might be at 9 o'clock and then reading is at 10:30? Can you talk about that model in a bit more detail?
I can, thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. So yes, so when you're thinking with those elementary school kiddos, you are going to have monthly student connect sessions with your teacher. Those are those one-on-one sessions with your teacher where they're going to work with you, check for mastery, things like that. Then there's going to be they're going to be hosting class connect sessions where they'll tell you in advance, here's where it is. For example, a morning check-in would be their class connect. They want to just check in this morning, may not be every morning, or maybe they're going to go over a lesson, but that would be during the week. So those don't happen every day. So I'm trying to think back to the slide that I showed earlier. Earlier, we showed kind of the difference of last year versus this year. So last year you would be on at, I'm just going to throw out a time, 8:30, and you'd be on from 8:30, let's say, to 3:30. And your teacher would be teaching lessons every hour on the hour. This is different. This gives you and your student the flexibility to start school when you want to. Obviously, if there's a class connect session, you want to be on for that. So if there's a class connect session at 9, you kind of want to plan for being on at 9, joining that session, working with your teacher, but that doesn't happen every day. This gives you as a student or learning coach that flexibility to start later if you would like to. So, or earlier. So if you want to start at 7 a.m., you guys just want to get up and get going, you can do that. Start your lessons at 7 a.m. Learning coaches there helping their student through those sessions, the lessons, and then hit the class connect or student connect sessions that are scheduled. If there's one scheduled that day, there may not be one every day, but your teacher will let you know ahead of time so that you can plan for those.
And one other question, Kristen, on weekly class connects, do they see other virtual students?
Oh, great question. So in those class connect sessions, the teacher has the option of allowing students to turn on their video or not. So certain parts of the lesson, like if the teacher's teaching, usually they'll keep the video off for that part because they want the students to focus and not be looking at everybody else's screen. But then they'll turn it on later in the session and other students are allowed to get on and turn on their video and things like that. So there is that option. Was there any others, Charlie, that I need to?
There was one other question about just teacher-student ratios in a virtual model.
So it honestly, it depends upon it depends upon a lot. So your school, depending on how many students there are, it may just be your school students in that teacher's class. So there could be students from other parts of the state in that teacher's class that will be coming to those Class Connect sessions with you and your student. So it's kind of widespread. You'll get the statewide depending on how many students your school has in there and if it'll fill up the class or not. But they are all working on the same state standards and working through that. And then your teacher will make sure that you have that independent, personalized work for your student to work on and work through. Okay, so I'm back at my main screen. So this is where you would come in again as a learning coach. This is your main screen. This is what's coming up. Again, this is that plan I was telling you about that's so important that you can plan for the day. However, looking at this as a learning coach, you're probably going, okay, that's great. We're going to do sums through 16, but it doesn't tell you much. Do you remember earlier I mentioned all of these are hyperlinks? You can go to your course and hyperlink there. You can go to your assignment, see the assignment. So that's what we're going to do now. We're actually going to dig deeper into today's lesson, and I'm going to show you how to plan. So here's my assignment. I just clicked on my very first assignment that day. And again, you don't have to start with the very first assignment that's on your list. You can move things around. So just remember that you don't have to go in order. So I clicked on an assignment. It happened to be a math assignment. So it's taking me into my math course and showing me all of my lessons in the course. I can also look at materials here. I can look at any advanced prep. I can also look at objectives for the course. But this is, right now we're seeing big picture, right? This is kind of big picture. I want to focus down on what we're doing today. How can we get started today? I'm going to go up here to my plan, and I'm going to choose my student, and then I'm going to go to my daily plan. So plan, I'm going to choose my student and daily plan. Again, this is being recorded, so don't worry. Don't try and write all this down. So as this comes up, this is my student's daily plan. This is the list that we saw before. Same exact list, same exact lessons. It just looks a little different. Again, I can see if anything's been mastered, if we've completed it or not. This one does tell me if there's any assessments and if they've been taken. So that's helpful. But what I like about this view is that up here at the top, there's this quick links area that's kind of tucked away. You don't always notice it right away. So I wanted to point out that you can see your materials you'll need. I like this view of the materials because it shows me all the materials I need for today. I can also jump to tomorrow or the next day and see what materials I'll need if I want to plan ahead, which is really nice. So here for today, I know I need that page 71, 72. If my materials haven't arrived, all I need to do is click on this, a PDF will come up, and my student can type their answers on that PDF and save it. So that's a nice feature there. That's why I said, don't worry if your materials aren't there the first day. Your teacher also let them know, hey, our materials aren't here yet. They'll point you to the lessons that are best suited without materials, and you can kind of start there as well. So I need this workbook page. I need these facts charts. I can see right here, here is my lesson guide as a learning coach. So maybe I just need some extra help on what to say, what to go over with my student. This guide is there to help you with that. And it gives me my materials that I'll need for every lesson today. So I can just scroll down and I can see exactly what I need. For example, over here, pencils, paper, crayons, things like that. Those things I told you that you would get for the brick and mortar, those are the types of things that you'll find in here as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I like the daily view. This is great, but here's that weekly view I said I like even better from that last view. So as a learning coach, I can come in here and look at my weekly view. This is how I'm going to plan for my week. I can come in here every day, the night before, the morning of, and see what's going on and what we need to do for the week. I personally like to print it out. You don't have to print it. Don't fret if you don't have a printer. This is not something you need to do. I like printing it out because I've something about having that paper copy. I don't know. So I have my paper copy and I know what needs to be done for this week. So I can see right away that, okay, tomorrow we have that 7:30 office hour. That's awful early, isn't it? It won't be that early. That 7:30 office hour that I need to make sure we're there for and plan for. And then I can come in here and write down, if I print it out, I can write down, okay, for math tomorrow, I need page 72 and 73. We're going to work on that. And then looking ahead, oh gosh, we have a unit review in math on Wednesday. So I remembered that we were really having a hard time with sums 10 through 20. So I'm going to write down study sums 10 through 20 before I take that math review with my student and goes through that. So this is where you can kind of make the plan your own and allow yourself to plan ahead and work on a schedule. Again, you don't have to go in order of these lessons. You can order them however you want, but these would be the lessons, an example of the lessons you would be doing that day. If by chance you don't finish a lesson, it rolls over to the next day. So you won't have double science on one day. It won't double it. It will just keep rolling over to the next day. So everyone will roll over. So another nice thing about printing it is if you do miss science for 2 days, you don't have to sit here and go, okay, which days did I miss? What did I do? What do I need to do? You'll be able to look back at your lesson plan and say, okay, this is the lesson I still need to do, and this is the lesson that we need to complete. I'm going to go back up here to the top. Again, we are still in the Learning Coach view. As I mentioned, everything here just gives you more information and goes deeper into what you have available to look at. So here I can look at my progress. I can look at my first graders' progress. I can see their progress. I can see their gradebook, more information on how they're doing. I can look at their courses here as well. Up at the top here, I can look at their courses. So it's just, you can keep digging for more information. What I do tell families is please get in here. Once you get your online school, you won't see all your lessons just yet. First day of school, your courses and lessons will appear. But as you get in here, and even if you don't have lessons, come in here and play around, click on things, search around, get lost in here, and then find your way around. That's, I think, the easiest way to kind of figure out where things are and where things take you.
Kristen,
So,
there's an app for the Learning Coach. Sorry. Some of these I don't know all the answers. Do we have an app for parents to log in as a learning coach, correct? Or can they log in from a phone to see things like attendance and?
So you can, the app we have is actually for the managed public school side. So the other side of the house is what the app's for. It doesn't kind of compute with everything we do on our side. So not that app. You can get in. I don't see why you, I'm trying to think through. I don't see why you couldn't log in from the website from your phone though, and see just the overall. It wouldn't work the exact same. So you wouldn't want to work from your phone, but to see like where your students at and doing, I think you could just from the website.
I think that's a good point. So if you just wanted to see like some basic overview info, you could do that through the web browser on your phone. There's not an app, but it'd be better to use it on your computer.
Correct. Correct. Okay, so from here, we've talked about how we're going, what we do today, how we can plan for the week or for today. Then the next part is, okay, we've planned, we know what pages to do, but I kind of want to see the lesson before I work with my student. That's just how I work. So if I wanted to view the lesson prior to my student, I can come in here and actually click on the lesson and it'll take me to the lesson and let me view that. Do not have your student work from your Learning Coach account from this view. They can get into so many other things and change things and it just gets messy. We want them to go in through their student view. So with that being said, I'm actually going to jump to the student view and I'm going to show you the lesson from the student view. It'll look the same once you get in there if you were here in the Learning Coach view or the student view, but I want to make sure we have time to cover the student view. So going in, again, same web link. I'm just using my student username password. And as it pulls up, this is my student's view. So this is what it'll look like. It's very kid friendly. And they can see right away when they come in, again, this is their lessons for today. This is their plan. This is what they're going to work on. So there's no guessing as to where do I go? What lesson do I do? As a learning coach, you can come in and go through this as they work through it with them. That's fine as well. It'll say up next, but you don't have to do this lesson next. Again, you can jump around. I can see that I've completed this lesson. It's kind of grayed out and I have a gold star. So that's been completed. The open stars have not been completed yet. So those are the ones I still need to work on with my learning coach. Class Connect sessions, all I do is click on this and it automatically takes me into a session with my teacher at that scheduled time. So there's no additional logging in, username, password. It automatically takes you there. What's I think really cool about these sessions is that we have an online platform called Neuro that your student and teacher will work in. Through this, it's very similar to Zoom, actually. You have the video, you have the microphone, you have the chat, but what makes it, I think, better than Zoom is that it has capabilities for the teacher to be in there and work with your student. So for example, they can draw on the board and write problems on the board, and your student can go in and answer those problems and write problems on the board. There's polling, there's quizzes, there's all sorts of things that they can do. They can bring up a YouTube video for your student to watch with a class that's educational. And it doesn't actually take them into YouTube. It only lets them see it so they can't get lost in YouTube and click on things, which is a big no-no for me. So, they're safe in there with their teacher, but it has some great teaching tools that the teachers can use. So from here, I'm going to show you an example of a lesson. And I'm going to come in here and just click on the lesson. It's going to bring up my lesson here. And I've already started this lesson, so it's asking me, do you want to start where you left off or do we want to go back? And I'm going to take you back to the beginning so you can see the full thing. You probably won't come in here that often, but there is a menu button over here. What I wanted to show you is how the lessons are set up, which I think is important because it's very similar to how a brick and mortar school teacher would set them up as well. So you would have that lesson introduction. They're going to have a skills update, something they've already learned, but they're going to do a little practice. Then they're going to get ready. They're going to teach them something within the lesson. As a learning coach, you're there helping them through this. So they're learning something within the lesson, and then they're going to try it. They're going to give it a try. They're going to practice it, and then they're going to be quizzed and checked on to see if they have mastery of that. So that's how all the lessons are set up as you go through. We also have up here at the right-hand corner, this is our reading toolbar, and this kind of helps students throughout. So I can highlight a word or a set of words and click read, and the computer will read this to me. I can also use my focus tool, and this will show me on the screen. Maybe there's a lot of words on the screen and I want to just focus on a certain area. I also have this define tool. So I can click on a word, click define, and it will give me the definition. The computer can read me the definition, or I can read it. What I like to tell parents too is if the student doesn't know what the word means, they may not know how to pronounce it. So it will also read the word for them so they know how to pronounce it. And then finally, we have a translate tool. So I can highlight this set of words. I can go into settings, choose a language, and then click translate. Here, it gives it to me in English, but it also gives me it in the language I chose. I can read it in that language, or the computer will read it to me. So it's an important little toolbar. It's kind of tucked away at the top, and you just expand it here. But this is in all of our lessons, ready to help your student. As I go through this lesson, I think it's a little slow because my video's on. As I go through this lesson, we're going to start with, again, that practice, that skills update. This is something we've already discussed, so it's a review for me. I can click my answer, I can check my answer, and I'm going to go through a couple review problems. Then it's going to say, okay, we're going to work on something else. You're going to go to the next screen. It has some audio. Make sure your speakers are working. And then there's a lesson guide for that learning coach. And then as this comes up, it's going to give me some facts. So this is, again, that get ready. So we have some facts that we've already been working on, but we're going to do some practice here. And sometimes it'll have a video that comes up. Sometimes it'll have a sound bite that comes up. Lots of times you move things around on the screen or type in answers. Again, practicing that math facts because we're learning through 20 now, I think. Oh, through 16. Okay, so this is the part I kind of wanted to show you as well. So now we've done our online part. Now it's time to do that offline part. And it's going to tell us, here's the materials we need. We need some index cards, sums through 12, and then some other index cards. It's going to tell us it's time to, excuse me, work on your numbers and facts. There's some advanced prep here. So I know I need to go ahead and go into this, and there's some instructions on that learning guide for the learning coach. As I go to my next page, I see my other materials I'll need. Here's a chart. If I don't have my materials yet, I can click here, and some sticky notes. And as I go through this, it's just telling me kind of what we're going to need and what we're going to do. Then at the end of the lesson, it'll say, okay, you've completed your lesson. Sometimes it'll ask the learning coach to put in a couple answers that the student had from their activity sheet. Other times it may not ask you to do that. And then you'll put in the attendance, how long it took you guys to complete this lesson, and you'll mark the lesson complete using your learning coach credentials. Let's see, I was just checking the chat to see if there's anything that was jumping out at me.
There was a question, Kristen, about being able to sync our management system with things like Google Calendar for just to help the learning coach, stay organized.
That would be really cool. I like that idea, but we don't have that at the current time. No, but that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but all of the management functions are in the learning coach portal.
Yes.
There's no Spanish translations in the learning coach side, is there?
No, there's not. Only in the student side. And then as you can see, I can highlight words here and it would translate for me, but all of the activity sheets are in English. There's a question about homework. So homework really is anything you don't finish during the day. So if you don't finish a worksheet or something like that, that would be your homework. But there's not any homework assigned by the teacher. They would tell you to finish something in class or, hey, work on this lesson, that type of thing. Are there any assignments, tests, quizzes that student will only be allowed to attempt one single time? If so, are those assignments, tests, quizzes marked a certain way to help us prepare? Love that question. So your student actually, since it's mastery based, needs to pass the test, quiz, assessment with 80% or higher. If they do not earn an 80% or higher, the lesson is marked as not mastered, and it'll be a star, a grayed out star with a line in it, kind of a minus sign. And that's how you know it's not been mastered. You can go back in and your student can retake that test, assessment, quiz, and go in and retake that. It'll take the last score. So if your student has, let's say, earned a 71 time, the next time they earned a 60, it'll go with the 60 score. So they'll have to try again to get that higher score.
Kristen, there was another question about if the parent is a working parent and the understanding that the learning coach is an involved role to make this successful. I was just saying that, the family has control of their schedule, but understanding that it is an involved role to make elementary virtual work. I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that.
Correct. So I mentioned earlier that it's about 4 to 6 hours a day that you and your student will be working. Again, depends on your student's grade level, depends on your student, but it is a very heavily involved role for the learning coach. If you have, if they have grandparents that are going to help do history and somebody else is going to help do something else, and you kind of have people there who are going to help you through this, I think it's doable. I've had some families do that, but you've got to finish your lessons that day. and you want to make sure you stay on track. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough, but it's you definitely need someone there working through these lessons with your student. Okay, so I'm going to go back now since I showed you a lesson here. And again, all of our lessons are set up that way, in that kind of ordered that way, I guess I should say. So this is the plan. That's just the same, the page they're coming on, the first thing they're going to see, they know where to jump in. As a learning coach, you're going to be there seeing what they need to jump in and do and working with them. There is this messages area that your teacher can send messages to your student, maybe any announcements or alerts. There's a resource area. And this is where your student's going to go into that big universe library and see all the books that we have. So I'm going to very quickly show you the big universe library just because it's I think it's just amazing for students to have at their fingertips. So as I come in, this is my bookshelf. These are books that I've decided I'm going to read. Maybe I've already read them, maybe I want to read them, but this is my bookshelf. I can come into all books over here and I can search for books. This is where I can come in and search by my reading level. I can type in a book's name. I can search by my grade level. I can search by languages. So it's a great area. Maybe I just want to click on a subject and go in here and see what they have available for me. Still tells me my reading levels in here that I can choose from. But it's a great tool for your students to be able to go into. There may be a lesson here or there that will point you to the big universe library and have a link to a book, but your student also can come in here at any time and choose a book to read. So I kind of wanted to highlight that and point that out. We also have our engaged community. This is an area for, I think I mentioned this in the parent section too, but this is an area that learning coaches can go in. There's tips and tricks. There's videos for learning coaches. There's resources for learning coaches. Students can come in here and also get resources on how to move around in the online school. There's virtual field trips, there's clubs, there's contests. So there's a lot of things your student can join in if that's something they would like to join and be part of. And then they have the encyclopedia here for your students. I'm going to come back to my screen on the left. The other thing I wanted to mention was courses. So as a learning coach, you were able to see the big picture, what your student was doing, how they were doing, their grade. This is the same thing for the student. I can come in here and see all my courses as a student, and I can see how I'm doing in this class. So here I've got an I in my math. Don't have the best grade here, need to work on that. I can see how far along in the curriculum I am, but I can see this for every course. Again, if I click on this, it's going to give me more information. So keep in mind, anything you click on, whether you're a learning coach or student, it will give you more information. Here is my math unit 1, and it shows me I've completed this one, completed. Oh, here's that grayed out star I talked about. So here's that grayed out star with a minus sign. I have not mastered this lesson. I have a score of 25%. I need to go back in and retake this. If this has multiple units in here, you don't have to scroll through every unit to find that. At the top, you can see, it'll show you if there's any that are not mastered that you need to go back in and retake. Have your learning coach work with you, right? Work with you, prep for the quiz or whatever it is, and then retake that. I can also see my gradebook. It'll give me just an overall view of my gradebook, what's the graded items in here, and when I completed those assessments. So it's a great place just to kind of see how I'm doing overall as a student. I should always know how I'm doing. It's not a guessing game at all. And then finally, this is the part the kiddos really like. So I have my character here. This is the fun part. I can go in and change my character. I can set my home page. If I don't want it on the plan, I can look at my courses and see my grades as I come in. I can choose my theme. I can choose if I have sound effects on or not, and I can choose between English and Spanish here. With that, I want to go back to our presentation here to make sure we share everything with you and have time for questions. So I'm going to go back to our presentation. Again, big universe library, over 20,000 books. It's a great resource for families. And then I have a couple of resources for you here just to kind of think about as we go through items. So for any instructional or content related questions, your teacher, #1 point of contact, cheerleader. Reach out to them with any questions you have. If you need some support for technical support or general questions, we have a service station that you can go and call and chat and create a case and get some help there as well. Then we have the Stride K-12 Help Desk for system navigation questions. We have Stride Academic Support. That's that 24/7 support line I was telling you about that you can call, chat, create a case for any questions that you have. If it's after hours when your teacher's not there, or maybe your teacher's in a class connect giving a session and they can't answer your phone call right away, this is a great area that you can call and get that extra support. The Engage website, which I just talked about, those tips and tricks, questions and answers, virtual field trips, clubs, contests, if your student wants to be involved in those are all here for your student. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Aiken, and they have some slides that they are going to go over, and then we have some question answer time.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everybody. We're trying to answer the questions they come through. Wanted to run through some of the questions that we've received in the last week or so. I know some of them we've answered in the Q&A, but just kind of want to run through a couple of them just one more time, and a few things that we've just taken notes of as the meeting has gone on that I want to kind of reiterate. But one, this introduction, it's really just kind of a one-year thing for right now. We haven't made any decisions about whether to try to continue a K-5 virtual option for the next school year. We'll probably take a look at it come May or June and work with the board to kind of think about what comes next. There were several questions about the one semester. It's like everyone kind of saw that part. We haven't set a date for when to sign up for the second semester. We'll probably get that out to everybody in the late fall. No one has to commit for the entire year. If the first semester works well, but you're ready to go back to in-person learning, then we want to make sure that everyone has that option for the second semester. And then we will likewise, I think, be allowing people who maybe don't want to do it this semester, but something changes and you decide that maybe you want to kind of do it second semester. We'll certainly have another enrollment period, again, late fall, very, very early winter time period. One of the things that I think kind of came out from various points was at one point we had talked about a cap. However, the Board of Education really wanted to move away from that. So at this point, we don't actually have a specific cap for our elementary option. We are going to send out a registration form later tomorrow, and that'll be open until 8 a.m. on September 7th. And I've got a timeline that I'll show everybody. But that'll be kind of when the window closes. And then, like I said, we'll announce something later in the fall. I know this is a really difficult decision. The only thing that we want parents to kind of think about is it does take about a week to a week and a half to kind of complete that transfer process from the base school into the elementary virtual option, make sure that you have your classes lined up. So we are going to try to get this ball rolling as soon as we open it up, again, later tomorrow. We're going to try to do a big batch upload of our first group of students, probably by Friday morning. And then at that point from there on, we'll try to enroll as soon as we get them. I know everyone does need some time to probably kind of process and think about what is right for you and for your student. The one thing to just keep in mind is the closer you get to September 7th, we're sort of extending how long we can get you started. So I don't want anyone to rush, but I also want everyone to kind of know it does take a little bit of time to transition from your in-person enrollment and transition you over. Kristen, can you kind of go to the next one for me? Some other ones, we will have some elementary options, but right now we're going to focus on PE as we make this transition. We're going to kind of see and test that out. I know Kristen mentioned some of the other ones, but because recess and physical education in North Carolina, as many of you know, is a requirement, we're going to start with that one and we're going to kind of see where it kind of goes from there. I think Kristen did cover that they will be using either North Carolina certified teachers or those who are close to receiving that certification, but they probably will not be Pender County teachers. Pender County teachers right now, we're focusing on the in-person classrooms. I know several are asking, well, so how do I actually sign up? So we've been working with Stride K-12, thinking about what's the fastest way to do that. So we're actually building a Google form, just like you signed up for this interest. We're working with them to create a registration form. Normally, we might kind of do it through PowerSchool. Most of you know and love our PowerSchool portal. But in order to try to speed this up, Stride has given us kind of some fields that they need, things like obviously student's name, grade level, address, phone number, who the parent is, that kind of thing. So we're building that right now. We're going to get that out tomorrow. And then what we'll do is periodically, we're going to pull all of the students that have been submitted, and we will send that up to Stride K-12, and then we will reach out to you to let you know, hey, we've captured your interest, we've got you started on the registration process, and then Ms. Winstead and her team will kind of keep you informed as to how we're moving through that process. And again, we're going to keep that open until 8 a.m. on September 7th. This is a full transition. So if this is something that you're interested in, we want to make this available to you, but we will transition fully over to the virtual option. I know that one of the things that a lot of parents have talked about is that staying connected. So we are really looking at trying to offer some of the academic opportunities, things like Battle of the Books, Science Olympiad. There were some ways that last year those organizations did virtual options. We're not 100% sure what those groups are going to do this year, but if it's possible, we want to make that available. We may lean on some of our parent volunteers to help make that happen, but that is something that we would like to be able to do. Ms. Winstead team is also, of course, they're also in charge of our actual 6th through 12th grade academy. And likewise, we're trying to offer some connect nights and give those parents that might be interested an opportunity. So more to come on that. That is something that's important to us. I appreciated Kristen just mentioning a lot of other options. We do want to try to keep that open. I don't know everything that exactly will happen, but we are going to try. That is a goal for us to try to make that available to everyone who kind of wants to keep that going. We understand that whole child aspect is still important regardless whether you're in person or if you're virtual. All right, Kristen, can you do the next one for me? So the big thing is that draft timeline. Of course, today was the first day of school, so we're trying to move as fast but as somewhat efficient as we possibly can. I would say look for late tomorrow afternoon, very early evening. We will get that Google form out to everybody. We will start trying to do that enrollment and orientation process almost immediately. We are targeting, at least for that first batch, which like I said, we're trying to pull it by 7 o'clock, probably Friday morning. Trying to get everyone up and running on September 7th. So we're going to try to move as fast as we possibly can. A couple other things just to kind of share, because I know there's some other things that came up. It is really important. I think Charlie mentioned it, that for our elementary students, especially obviously our K-2 students, it really is critical to have that parent or that other coach, may not be a parent, but your coach there with the students. That is one thing we learned through all of last year, really K-5, but especially K-2. So please really think through that and kind of consider that. Another one that we learned kind of the hard way was the difference between having internet access and having really strong internet. Y'all know Pender County, unfortunately, there are places where cell service is still spotty. We can and we have worked last year to try to provide hotspots, but of course, many of the parents told us very clearly that, well, the hotspot's only good if you've got the cell phone service. So we don't want that to be an impediment, but unfortunately, we don't really have a great way to kind of build broadband and build fiber optics. So we know some parents have talked about having routines where they will go to the library or they're going to be going to coffee shops and things like that. I've just happened to see students over the years, they kind of have a regular spot they go to. If that works, then by all means, but just make sure that you're comfortable with that. What we saw was relying on a cell phone as the means to try to do your work for a lot of the more powerful videos, a lot of the work that when you're interacting directly with a live teacher can become really difficult. So just be thinking about the internet. Attendance, the one thing I wanted to let you know is we're actually going to be really watching that. So by North Carolina law, we have to figure out a way to take daily attendance. So Ms. Winstead will be, and her staff will be looking at who's logging in each day and at least doing some work. So we can't, unfortunately, North Carolina just go by completion of work. We actually have to make sure that you're logging in. That is sort of last year how the state decided to deal with virtual education. Some attempt by the student to essentially access their work. So we will be looking each day to see who's signed in, and that's kind of how we're going to take attendance. So that may not mean, as they said, it may not be much that day. You may really only be going in to check and see what work you have, and if you have a synchronous meeting that day. But we will be looking at that. Let's see what else. One thing that we've learned, that the North Carolina is still going to require us to complete all state required testing. So we are working on plans on how to do that. Obviously, most of us know the EOGs in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. But for any of our K-3 students, we will also have to still continue working on the Read to Achieve law. You may have heard of things like iStation or M-Class that teachers are required to do to monitor reading. We can do M-Class virtually, so that's the good news, but it does have to be one-on-one. So we are actually looking at hiring an individual whose job is going to be called our K-12 virtual test coordinator. Someone that's all they're going to do is focus on working with Ms. Winstead's staff to schedule and make sure we kind of work with all of our virtual learners to make sure they're still completing all the state requirements. So more to come on that, but just wanted you to know it's another reason why we really wanted to make sure that we had a strong reading program, and those learning coaches there helping our students through it. We talked about trying to work on some Connect nights. I know I've got several Pender Lee parents attending tonight. So we were actually texting back and forth with Charlie, talking about how best ways to merge year-round learners. You guys have already been up and running, obviously, for almost 6 weeks. So obviously, first, we want to honor your upcoming track out in a couple weeks. You definitely have earned that right, and we want to make sure you have that. So we'll work with Stride K-12 to kind of figure out what's the best way to kind of merge those dates, make sure that the work that you're doing is not repetitive to something you've already covered. We can certainly share with Stride all of the curriculum and our pacing guides as we know it, trying to kind of make that as good as possible. It is one of the benefits to the way that Stride is sort of set up, in that it is not necessarily a daily expectation. We'll work with the calendar the best we can. We realize that's one of the hardships that some parents have already been in school. So we don't want that to be something that weighs your decision one way or the other. So we will work with you, and we'll work with Stride to kind of make that possible. I think Ms. Winstead, anything else? That's a lot of stuff. So we are going to try to, and thank you for the recording, Kristen, we are going to send out a note either later tonight or early tomorrow that just is a quick synopsis of what we've done. Once we receive the recording, we will make sure that it's available either through our social media or our website for everyone. We do have some of our wonderful employees actually signing in tonight to take notes. So we have one of our wonderful translators here, and we're working on how to try to best create a summary or wrap up some of the slides so that our Spanish first families have an opportunity to still access this. So we'll be sending some of that along with the same frequently asked questions that I know some of you received Friday and Saturday. I think Friday night we sent out some of the first round that we had talked about. We will send those out to everybody again, along with the translated version. So I think that's it. I know we probably have some Q&A. So Kristen, I don't know if you've been monitoring it for us.
I actually had some questions come in about if, since school has already started, do they need to go to in-person, or can they just wait until virtual starts?
That's a great question. So no student can be absent until they have already shown up for the day. So our principals, they've received the exact same information that's been shared so far tonight. They've received the exact same frequently asked questions. We are going to get them this recording tomorrow morning as well. But they know that at this point, we have parents that are still sort of working through a decision about what's best for you and for the children. So you can't be absent. So you're not absent yet at all. And then we will notify them as soon as we start seeing your interest. I know some parents have already told the principals this is what we plan on doing. So they haven't withdrawn anybody or anything like that yet. We'll handle it within the school system as a transfer. So, I don't want to advise a parent to do one or the other. It's entirely a parent choice, of course. But we will make sure that any names that come to us get to the school so they're aware of what you're doing. And you can't be absent until you've shown up. So I think parents, that's something that we want you to be comfortable with choosing.
And then there was a question about, I think there's going to be some sort of district decision made about masks on September 7th. So they're wondering if they can wait past September 7th, but they have till what, midnight, September 7th? Still
So
after that.
I'm working through that. We had published the September 7th deadline before the board introduced a new meeting. So right now we're saying September 7. Let us work on that. We'll communicate out to everybody if we need to end up pushing that to 8 a.m. on September 8th. Let us kind of have a chance to talk with the Board of Education about that timing. We had published all this before that date was set. So it's a really good question. Let me have a chance to kind of find that out, and we will send that back out to everybody. First semester ends, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't looked at the calendar a little bit. I believe the first semester ends, I want to say like December 20th.
First semester.
Yeah, it's right before the winter break. I know we used to always end in January, but the last 2 years we've actually ended right before the winter break. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is again this year.
And there's a question about holidays and following the school calendar. So it'll follow the district calendar. You'll have the same days off, same holidays, same everything.
And that's why our Penderley families just stick with us. We'll work on that for you. Don't worry.
There's a question, I can answer this one. How many hours per week are the required meetings? So it's going to depend upon your student. If your student is struggling, your teacher will say, hey, we've got to talk more, right? We need to work more. But keep in mind for the normal student, it's going to be monthly student connects. And then those class connect sessions are optional for you and your student to attend. What is the age limit for pre-K and kindergarten? They have a birthday.
So this is not intended to be a pre-K program. Ms. Stacy Pullen, our amazing pre-K director, is trying to work on some options for pre-K, but their rules have sort of changed compared to last year, like a lot of us, when we had Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C, and so forth. So the Stride K-12 option is for K-5 for us. But I would strongly encourage anyone who's got a pre-K student that's struggling through some of the same questions and trying to decide what to do, to please reach out to Ms. Pullen and her office. They can help you through kind of what makes the most sense for our pre-K students. For kindergarten, it's if you're eligible to be enrolled in kindergarten in Pender County, then you would be eligible.
I can take this one. There's a question on if your student's not on grade level, will there be assessments for correct learning material for their needs? So you'll work with your teacher and they'll kind of help get you where you need to be, working on getting you up to speed and closing those gaps.
I think it might be the same parent. I saw there was a question about whether this would be appropriate for sustained support students with IEPs. So that's really going to be an individual case-by-case basis. The school-based IEP teams know the students the best and certainly need to kind of work through that. In the most general terms, the Stride K-12 platform is a kind of a regular ed classroom setting. So for any students that are typically going to receive their English, math, and science and literacy instruction, even if it is with some accommodations and modifications, then in general, this probably be fine. Our sustained support classrooms also have a range of students, just depending on what their particular needs are and the goals they have. So I hesitate to say a flat yes or no. It sort of really depends on kind of that particular student's goals. Stride in K-12, and we will have on our end EC teachers who will be working with Stride and K-12 to try to make sure that modifications and accommodations are in place to try to work with the curriculum to a degree. So if a student in general is going to regular education settings for the vast majority of their instruction, I think it's something definitely to kind of work through. If they typically don't, then I think the IEP team really probably kind of needs to work through that. But it really just depends on the goals. And so I wouldn't want to give a flat, this is the answer. That's not at all our goal, our intention. But it's like most things, when you have an IEP meeting and you sit down and you're looking at what's the most appropriate setting, what's the best location to receive the services to meet the goals of the student, this would need to be considered this kind of the same way. So we will be working with our school-based teams. We actually have some members of our Pender County EC department attending tonight as participants so that we can make sure that everyone's getting the same information. And then we'll be sending this out to them as well. So if this looks like something that you're really interested in, I would definitely start contacting your current case managers and kind of talking it through with them, looking at your students' IEP goals and what accommodations and modifications they need to meet those goals and working from there.
Okay. There's a couple questions about unenrolling their students. Do they still need to use the same form that you send out tomorrow to enroll here?
So we'll work on that internally. The main thing is just please make sure that you fill out that form as soon as you know that this is what you kind of want to make happen. And then we're actually working tomorrow to start trying to work on the inside of the school system. What's the best way to transfer those students between the schools? So we'll take care of that on our end. The only thing I really wanted the parent to have to do at this point is just to make sure that you fill that out and get it filled out to us as soon as possible.
Okay, I'm trying to look. Some of these I think we've answered. Are you offering a Chromebook, or is there someone who has a Chromebook?
Yes, thank you. So I'm sorry, thank you. Several parents asked that question tonight. So any of our students will be given a Chromebook just like you would if you were going to school. We are working on the best way to do that. We're working through whether it's going to be better to have a central location and parents come over a period of time, or have them distributed at each student's school. So, excuse me, I was working with our technology department tonight, and we're going to try to get that finalized and out to everybody tomorrow. It may just depend on what the total numbers are. We don't want to overwhelm our schools, but we want to make sure what's the quickest and most efficient way to do that. So do know that everyone, if you would prefer, if you have something that works for you at home and that's better, for your family's needs, that's certainly okay. But anyone who needs a Chromebook, we will make sure that you have one for sure. I did see someone asked about middle school. So one thing I want to make sure is that we have a very different sort of middle school to high school option. And you can certainly reach out to Miss Asia Winstead and the Pender Innovative Learning Academy. They can give you kind of details on that. Prior to all of our lovely COVID world, we had actually established a plan for starting a 612 virtual academy. So that is in place and was actually up and running even before all this occurred. We have expanded it, but it's sort of a separate program. So definitely please reach out regarding that. But for any of our K-5 students, if you need a Chromebook or anything like that, we will certainly take care of it for you. As far as transferring records, those actually, those will stay with their schools. Since this is a virtual school, we're going to leave their paperwork there, with the, plan that at some point that may be something that a parent may choose to do. If you're a fifth grader, then obviously once you transfer to the middle school, if you decide to stay all year, in this option, then we'll handle that and we'll work with your base schools and take care of that. So please don't worry about that. I saw the question about currently enrolled. So as long as you are registered in Pender County, we can see that and pull that question. Whether you decide to go physically in person the next couple of days, that really is an individual parent choice. I know our principals will do everything they can to make you as comfortable and feel as comfortable as you possibly can. But you don't necessarily have to have gone to school for a full day for us to see you. As long as you are registered and within Pender County schools by September 7th, then we will be able to see that information and pull that information. I'm not sure about the first semester Topsail. So the first semester started today and will run until right before the winter break. And then I think we come back the first full week of January, and that'll be the start of the second semester. So I would anticipate somewhere probably around the Thanksgiving holiday will be when we start sending out information about the second semester.
Sounds good. I
Whew,
think
and I didn't realize it was 8 o'clock.
those are all the questions. You guys had some great questions.
Yes, yes. And please feel free to reach out. Like I said, we will get some more information out to everybody tonight or first thing tomorrow. And then please look for the registration form, probably late afternoon, early evening tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Hopefully you've got all your questions answered. Again, this is recorded, so we will send this out. Thank you for allowing me to co-host with you guys.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Charlie. Saw the last question about, if you have more questions, please just feel free to email myself or Asia Winstead. And as my last act, I will put our emails in here. And you'll see those coming to you in just a second. If I could learn how to type. All right, they just went into, I hope it went to everybody.
I got it. You sent it to the panelists, but I sent
Oh,
it to everybody.
whoops.
We're good.
Oh, thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
I'm not a good multitasker. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry for keeping you late. I hope this was really helpful for you. Thank you, Kristen.
everybody.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.